evening, everyone. Tonight is November 21st, and we're at Big Flats. And would you please stand and honor America by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So I need a motion to adjourn to executive session for the purpose of discussing individual tenure reviews, individual personnel update of a medical or legal nature, potential vendor contract negotiations, and potential litigation. Can I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Abstention? All right, we'll go to executive session.
We're going to the one of the new.
All right, good evening, everyone. We are returning from executive session, and we are opening the public session of November 21st board meeting. Tonight, we are at Big Flats Elementary School, and we are sitting in the brand new gymnasium. And the lighting is spectacular, the view is spectacular, and I invite anybody to maybe make an appointment with Mrs. Captor and come in and see the wonderful construction that is taking place. And last month we were at Garden Road and in their new cafeteria, so we see a lot of positive things and a lot of progress that is taking place. So I'll give a kudos to Mr. Coughlin and his group for engineering all of this. All right, with that said, our first order of business is to approve the minutes from October 17th. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Curiosities, comments, discussion? All in favor? Oh, I didn't. Okay.
Yeah. I'm voting no on the minutes because for the purpose of the name not being attached to what is said. And then I also resubmitted the full statement to Candy for what I had sent to the board member comments for updating. But I'm voting no.
Call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right. Do we have anybody that wants to speak from the community tonight? All right. Then we'll go to our report from our student representative, Ms. Mia Sophia. How are you tonight, Mia?
Good.
Sophia. Sorry.
No, just so you know. So this month, Unified Bowling registration opens December, not this month, next month, it opens December 6th. GAP posted a pumpkin painting event for the high school and middle schools and hosted 31 students, including 14 students from Nakagawa and Japan on the Nakagawa First Sister City Exchange program. Horseheads Green Room Players hosted their annual variety show and held auditions for their spring musical Into the Woods. Horseheads music students performed at junior and senior high area all-state. Juniors and seniors hosted their powder puff game. Horseheads football won sectionals, and Giraffe sponsored their blood drive. Winter's first tryout started Monday, November 19th. NHS had inductions last Thursday for units.
Thank you very much, and I apologize for mispronouncing your last name. All right. We now go to our presentations, and tonight we have a district goals update.
to give it a moment for the screen to come up. You might have noticed one of the design elements of having a stage in a gym is to do a back projector. So the projector is actually pushing from the back as to keep it from being hit by a ball out here. And we did have to hang some things here as well as sound equipment and lighting, but when it comes to the projector and that type of device, the best design was a back projector. So neat design and working with the design team. All right, so tonight we are going to do an update on our district goal, one of our academic goals. I believe it's goal 2, and it refers to our MTSS work, which had 3 different parts. We're going to just talk about where we are with our professional learning and some of the work we've done. I've got a team behind me that we have worked with along with our principals and our curriculum coordinator and coaches to make this happen and to get this district moving forward in this work. So we'll do a little bit about where we are and some of the learning and give you some exposure to the learning our staff had. MTSS is not new. Those that might have been paying attention to our presentations, this first came up during the 2021-22 school year. At that time, just around there, New York State had talked about moving from an RTI model, response to intervention, to an MTSS model, multi-tier system of supports. The district had been talking about it for 2 years, maybe 3 years through COVID as part of our Horseheads 2030 initiative, so it was very fortuitous that we took that on and we were moving ahead, even like most things that you're going to see tonight, ahead of what the state had been putting out. We knew it was the right work to do and to work and bring in some consultant and people to work with some experts in the field and learn from them. So this goes back several years and we're in an implementation stage. And we're being much more intentional about what we're trying to accomplish each year. This year is a lot about our what's called our Tier 1 interventions and how we approach those and the common language that has to be developed because of that. So your first couple slides here are just going to be kind of a, Bill promised me that the slide thing would work. It helps when you turn it on. So what we have here is, this was a question that was given to our staff at the last conference day. Our principals were very generous with their time and their learning to spend some time with their building level staff, and they were presented with this question. The intention of this is to move outside our comfort level of academics. We usually think about a school where every student receives the supports they need to succeed, and we often have thought in the academic lens. You know that through the work of the board and thanks to the community, our work in adding social workers, and especially through COVID and the monies we use there, and then a sustainability plan to maintain those positions and the importance of that work that they do. So this is a beginning to think about the social emotional and the behavioral aspects of what they might need at any given day. So this was a question that was posed to our staff, and as we, to start the conversation that day. You recall that we do have a goal. This is part of that goal that the board may have seen in regards to MTSS, and it's talking, like I said earlier, about that framework, a common language. It's a funny thing, language. We have a lot of experienced teachers and staff, principals, and believe it or not, sometimes a word means something different depending on who you speak to. So getting a common understanding of what we mean by a Tier 1 intervention, a Tier 2, and a Tier 3, and really reeling that in so we're all talking the same. Because there is some shifts that we're going to be asking people to have in their mindsets and how we approach this work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have some members of my team come up. They're going to talk about little pieces of this and how it works out. And just to be sure, as everybody can hear me okay, I just want to make sure before we go further. So I'm going to hand over to Tiff.
As you know, over the last course of several years, we've been doing a lot of work, and this slide intentionally looks messy for a reason. We have been doing so much curricular design work. We've done a lot of working with our special education staff, just for trying to bring all of these pieces together as the foundation for this work. We've spent the last several years building on this with all staff at the table to design some of our curriculum, as well as choose resources to support our work. Our end goal is that portrait of a graduate. We want our students to walk away from Horseheads with all of those skills, more beyond just those academic skills. And as you know, we've talked to you a lot about those 7 indicators. So staff, we presented this slide, this very slide to our staff to show them that it looks really messy, but it's good work and there's intentionality behind it. And that is why you see this next slide where it's all aligned. Our goal is, as I said earlier, to get our students to graduate, the portrait of a graduate. We want them to be good humans. We want them to walk away with skills beyond just a strong academic side of the curriculum. And it's really being intentional, and that's what we wanted to show. Like, everyone's been doing a lot of great work over the last year, and there's a reason for it. Our end goal is to get to that portrait of a graduate. MTSS is going to be the vehicle of how we get there and how we bring all of this together. Just as a reminder, those portrait of a graduate, the 7 indicators are wellness, citizenship, collaboration, communication, creativity, critical thinking, and independence. And our focus here is, again, to build that interdisciplinary side for our students. We really want to build in those benchmarks that we can show and collect evidence that they are being those good humans, and we've given them the tools to be successful as they graduate. Yes. So we actually went through a process. We collected student input. We collected all of our teachers' input that were at the curriculum table. We had board input years ago on what these indicators should be. We had so many Post-its around the room, and then our team, our curriculum advisory team, brought all of these together and categorized all of these into different indicators, and that's where we came up with all 7 of these. So what does this mean for our role as educators in Merced? And that is the question we posed to our staff on conference day. And this is something we wanted them to grapple with, because we're doing such great work. And how are we intentionally aligning all of this to get to the outcome of the portrait of a graduate? So we spent a lot of time talking about this and celebrating the work that's been done, but also outlining next steps and where are some areas we really do need to take this work.
Okay, so we as administrators went through training this summer as we had gotten together, and we had an amazing presenter that shared some experiences with us. We kind of set the framework for us to be thinking about. Imagine, if you were an educator and you're welcoming your students into the classroom, and as the course of the semester goes on, you start looking at your data for your students, and you notice over the course of 14 months that you have a student that's missed 35 days of school, they're tardy 20 times. We as administrators, and then we ask this as our staff members in October, what would you think about that student? What would you think about that family? What would you think about, their commitment to school, their commitment to education? A whole host of questions, that were posed to us and then were posed to the teachers. And this was a personal experience that the presenter had brought to us. And so we were thinking, well, gosh, they've missed a lot of school. There's something going on. There's not a commitment to school. A ton of different reasons why, this could have happened. When we got to the end of what the presenter had set up for us, and when we did this in October, when the teachers got to the end of what we had set up for the teachers, we really found that we had some implicit biases about what we were deciding could be going on with that family, with that student, when really there was this hidden story that we were unaware of, that student had a severe allergy, that they were taken out of school numerous times and brought back later in the day because they were going through this highly specialized medical treatment. They were hospitalized, they had severe anaphylactic reactions, which meant they were gone for days at a time. And here we were possibly thinking that they just don't care about school. They don't care about my class, they don't want to be here, when they were at times fighting for their lives. So it was a really interesting perspective for us as administrators to have, and then our staff to have, to think about how we think about someone's story when really there are so many other hidden things that are happening with our kids. And that's really the purpose behind thinking about the whole child as opposed to one piece of the child. Looking at socially, emotionally, what they could be going through, why they're having the behaviors they're having that may be impacting why they can or cannot be successful academically. So if we put all the pieces together, that story really can be leading us in a different direction on how we're going to help our kids. So having said that, we come to a place when we think about the stories and where we are with our kids that we need to presume that all kids are competent to learn, and that needs to be our mindset for this work, that we have presumed competence for all of our kids, that they all can do better than what we thought they may have done based on the story we may have for them, rather than what their story actually is. And that again is the impetus for MTSS. All students are capable of learning at high levels in all three areas, academically, socially, and emotionally, when we look at the whole child and we provide those just right supports for them. So that's the direction, the set that we had for our staff to think about, and the direction we're moving in to have that understanding that all kids can learn at high levels, no matter what they come with. We just have to set the table for that to happen for them.
So as you've heard, we think about what we want for our students here in courses. We think about portrait of a graduate, and it really is, yes, the academics, but the full picture here. The key word that I would also point out on the slide that Kelly just shared was the word all. And we've all, even in what you've heard from each of us tonight, we've been very intentional when we say the word all. We really are trying to emphasize that mindset that all really does mean all. We believe all kids are capable of having supports. And so that's kind of the aspirational lens of what this is about and where we want to get for our kids. But knowing that, what we also shared with staff is just some things that we all know as educators about kids, but are important to acknowledge and say out loud when we think about what this all looks like. And so you see those, one being, while those are our outcomes we want all students to get to, we know that our students do not learn in the same way. They don't learn on the same predetermined schedule. So a one-size-fits-all approach to how we get kids there will not be effective. And so what does it look like to truly give kids what they need? We also know our students will come to us from different backgrounds. They're going to come to us with different strengths and different needs. So what does that mean for how we best instruct our students and provide those supports? And because there's such a wide continuum that our kids are going to come to us with, academically, socially, and emotionally, acknowledging also that to make this happen, we need to say out loud, no one educator can meet that full continuum of needs of every child inside the walls of their own classroom. So a team approach is essential. It is required for this work going forward. And that mindset that you see at the bottom there, that every child is our child in course 6. We got getting out of the mindset of that's your class, my class, those kids, my kids. Every child is our child, and that's again a mindset we take to this work. So with that in mind, kind of the question for this, and when Tony kind of shared this question up front, if that's our goal, then really it's going to require a systems approach. And so like a guiding question we shared for this with our staff was, how do we then create a system that ensures, guarantees, that all students get the supports they need when they need them to learn at high levels academically, socially, emotionally, and behaviorally? And that again is the why behind why we're talking about this MTSS concept, multi-tiered systems of support. So when you look up here, what you see here, I'm going to read this out loud one time through. But our why for MTSS, and a little bit of the story here was, this was a statement and a kind of a vision-like statement for this work that was developed and revised several times with our instructional leaders group throughout their learning and where we landed. So I'll read this aloud. MTSS provides a whole child framework to establish a comprehensive continuum of supports to ensure that all students achieve at high levels academically, socially, emotionally, and behaviorally. These systems will encapsulate our district's vision, mission, and value statements to create an inclusive and equitable learning environment for all students. And the reason you see a handful of those words bolded, it's a lot of language to throw at you that we process through, but every word up there is intentional. And some of those words you see in bold, we wanted to get just right to truly capture what we are trying to accomplish here, to truly make this happen for all of our kids. So with that being our why, the next step really becomes, so we're at this aspirational stage. How do we across the district now start to establish common language, common understandings of what all this means, but then also what it starts to look like in practice? And so we identified, and this is just a slide to show you, to give you a little flavor of what our conference day was about in October. We identified a common resource to ground us all. First, as instructional leaders, we went through some reading as a group, processed together and had our own takeaways, and then alongside with our principals, co-designed what a first round of learning would look like to give truly across the district, so we're aligned, so we're on the same page as we start this journey together. So you see a little bit of the resource we use up there, and we asked staff to read this same chapter on conference day that we read individually. There's a note catcher I'll share in a moment that kind of organized the takeaways and the reflections we wanted them to engage in, and then had share-outs at each building. And so principals led these conversations out in their building after co-designing that together. And you see a little bit of how we framed the reflection was one, to just react. What were some words or phrases from the text that just made you think? You reacted to, surprised you, resonated with it. Maybe you agreed or disagreed with it. But also having, as Tiff shared earlier, those arrow slides of a lot that we've currently done that we're realizing aligns with this work. And just be more aware of that, more intentional with that. But also the opportunity to identify and hear from our staff, what do we feel is not yet in place? Where are there barriers that can inform what our next steps are? So you see kind of that glows and grows approach. And so principals led staff through those reflections around a common reading and brought those reflections back with our instructional leaders group that meets and we've processed, and we're starting conversations with that team of what will the next round of learning for our staff look like in January. And that's kind of where we're at. But just for a little bit of that for the board's awareness, some of the feedback in terms of more of the grow area, in terms of where might we go next, I think we felt in every building some conversation around staffing and resources to truly make this happen for all kids. Whether that's looking at how might we redefine our current systems and maybe use our staffing more effectively to meet the needs of all students, and where might there be areas as we get in longer term planning with this that maybe there's opportunity that might inform where we might add staff in the future when those conversations come about to really do this work the right way. The other one, there's a lot of reflection around the schedule. So this all sounds great in theory. How do you actually build this into the schedule where it happens for kids? And having conversations about some current realities where in some pockets we've built blocks of time where this can happen. In other cases, we have examples of students that might need support in reading, but for that to happen, we're pulling them out of their whole class reading instruction to remediate gaps while new gaps are simultaneously formed because they're missing new instruction. That doesn't make any sense. Or maybe they're being pulled out of science or pulled out of a music lesson, which is critical for kids. That can't be helpful about it. We're all on the same page with that. So having a lot of intentional dialogue around what that looks like to really build a schedule for that system to happen, and just lots around professional learning. And we're committed to that. We have a great group up here and our constructional leaders that will continue to reflect on that and try to continue to know what is the best next step in our learning for our staff to continue with this work. So that's a little bit about next steps of where we'll head next.
So I think just as a pause, there's a little bit more to go, but there is a video here that, given the time, it's about 5 to 6 minutes. We're not going to show it, but we highly encourage the hyperlink there. It shows kind of what this all means and what this work means. And this video, one that has resonated with us and with our staff to kind of do a parallel story using dentistry, what it means to go to dentist, orthodontist, and specialist, and how that is what tier 1, 2, and 3, and how preventative, and how tier 1 is your regular brushing your teeth every day, your regular maintenance of your oral hygiene. So there's this great video here that I would encourage. It'll be hyperlinked when we put it out as a PDF for everybody to be able to access and see it on board docs. And certainly we'll work with Sam, who's great to polish our presentation here to get it out, because it does show MTSS. Yes.
We'll also put it in this week's update.
Yeah.
Wait.
So I think from a non-educator point of view, if I was to hear this presentation, I'd be like, no duh, what have you guys been doing? Or you might be saying, well, why the heck would you pull a kid out of that to do that? Well, there's confines of capacity when you have a system as large system, that you have to manage resources. And you can do it in isolation in a building. And we have amazing principals that use their resources as best they can and wisely as they can in the moment, given the needs of their children and their staff. But for us to take it on as a systems approach with intentionality is a different story. And there will be some pains and some growths. That's just natural for a systems change. So that as we all get on the same page of what it means, the analogy of this video essentially is, you might be a child that will be getting services in the classroom. You don't always have to be pulled out for them. You don't have to be. They're not that strong. They're able to be handled in the moment with a good instruction at that moment, and with a slight support from an outside at times help. So it's redefining what it means to look at education in the classroom as well as the supports and how we build schedules. And we have a great opportunity as we move forward with the new schedule for next year and building upon that to, as Tom would say, build a better mousetrap in the way that we do.
Just kind of to wrap this all up, our portrait of our graduate is our what. The MTSS will be our how. It's the vehicle to help us get there. We're going to continue to do our work. Like Tony said, we're going to do a lot of reflection and feedback and really get the staff engaged in these conversations and help us build this. This is not something you flip overnight. We really need to be intentional and spend time learning as a system, making sure that we're ready to go and we have all the right supports in place before we roll this over. So just not pressure of we're going to flip it and do it overnight. This is something that really takes time so that we can do it the best that we can for our students.
So you guys have heard great words. You've heard equitable. You've heard behavioral, social, emotional, right? You've heard trying to include everybody. You've heard all has been very intentional. They talked about it the whole time. Isn't it a wonderful world that there's so many differences between all of us, right? That's what makes the world such a wonderful place. That there's so many differences and so many different people and so many different ways of looking at things and different perspectives. That's what makes a great nation. Our Raider Nation has that ability. We have all those differences, all those beautiful things to look at ways differently, to learn differently, to teach differently. And that's what this whole MTSS is about. It's about bringing everybody together to make sure they're all part of our nation, our one Raider Nation. So that's the whole premise of making this, make sure that everybody's there, everybody's equitable, and everybody can achieve great things. So that's what the whole premise is about, and kind of closing that all up.
Thank you. Damien, by the way, coming on board and hopefully soon enough as our permanent AD position, and certainly a passion, as you see, of his when it comes to the Raider Nation. So we're excited about him joining our team, and the work that we do in this, and his work he's done in the social emotional world with his students, and now bring it to the district perspective. Really quick, some updates. I'm not going to flow around this mic right now. New York State Ed, like I just said, they have multi-tier systems of support integrated. This is a system that they're rolling out in, there's MTSS states and RTI states. We are still like an RTI state, but the state is moving in this direction and looking at the tiered interventions. You see this in their pushing and making sure we're doing social emotional learning and those standards in our classrooms, which we're way ahead of as well with the work we've been doing with some of our social workers, psychs, a lot of people involved in that work. So we're feeling good about that initiative, ahead of it. You've heard me say before, the science of reading. We had a great opportunity. We run objective observers yesterday. We opened our district up to about 7 or 8 different districts led by a BOCES literacy initiative, came into about 20-something of our classrooms to see the science of reading happening and what it looked like as they themselves are trying to learn it and bring it back to their district. They were, needless to say, thoroughly impressed with the work they were doing. We will continue to engage with them as an objective way to ensure that we're on the path from their learning and from their experiences and from the expertise of some of those at BOCES that go to the state-led meetings. But I had a conversation again today with a colleague at BOCES saying that yes, we are on a very strong path and way ahead of the game as we thought, and it's just good to get an objective point of view on the work we're doing in the science of reading. So we're looking to step that game up and find resources to hone that work that we're doing, especially at the K through 3 level. Last one, the Blue Ribbon Commission. You might have heard the Board of Regents talking about this. They have not made a full official ruling on the Portrait of a Graduate. It is out there, but the application of that and the multiple pathways for graduation and the performance assessments. We're feeling good about all 3 of those and where we are in our work and our curriculum work we've been doing since 2018-19. And we're well, so much so that when the state put out a form asking us, you know, what do your teams think where you're going to put in the Portrait of a Graduate? My question back to the state was, we already done this. Do I have to do a crosswalk now and ditch what our stakeholder groups put together and take on the states, or are we okay to go ahead and move forward with ours? Because ours are authentic and made by us, and why should we take on the states? We could crosswalk it and be sure that our students are not mixing and meeting the state requirement, but I'm pretty confident that what we created is awesome. So we'll move forward with that work. More to come on the multiple pathways. That does have a very quick timeline if it's to go forward as is, but there's no clear information on what that's going to look like just yet on that multiple pathways and the changing of exams and a lot of other nonsense. More to come on in December. We might know more after that Board of Regents meeting, and maybe January, February if we're lucky. So I'm going to pause on that one and not get into the weeds until it's official. That's all. Actually, there's just what we're going to do next. And that was just December. We have plans to just tell you how do we use data to support the whole child, what we do with various sets of information that come to us, and then at the January Board of Meeting, we're going to talk about that future learning. And in there, we'll do an update on New York State and what they're determining on the graduation measures. Because if they do go forward with that, there will be a large lift by the system to figure that out. That's all I got. Any questions?
Go ahead, Aaron.
Hi, a couple of things. Thank you for the presentation. I appreciated the amount of information and the conciseness of the information. Thank you. I'm glad to see that we're sharing out our knowledge and work with other groups so that people can learn from us. So I think that's awesome. And I'm really excited to see that we're doing that because we have done a lot of tremendous work and we have a lot to share. So I love to see that others are learning from us. As far as the initiative, we have a lot of these items in place, and that's really exciting to see. Coming from education, knowing course heads, I know that we have a lot of these items in place already. It's just how we're going to organize and restructure them and utilize them appropriately. So I think it's important for people to understand that and know that these items are in place. We're just figuring out how to best utilize them and tailor them, right? So I think that's important to get across. And then a question for you. What are we doing to learn from others who are doing similar things on a pathway of where we want to be? Who is our mentor? What are we looking at?
Good question. We worked with a group last year. Novak group. When was it Novak? Was it 3 years ago? 3 years ago. We did bring up a group. Katie Novak was the author of the MTSS work, and we coordinated with her group to learn from her and someone that wrote a book alongside, I can't remember Mike's last name off the top of my head, but he had a similar role in Massachusetts at a high-performing district, and he worked with us over the course of a year on the work he was doing and helped us build this path that you're seeing now. So we started off with experts and saw where that next step was and built learning from their mistakes and how they implemented. The team behind me have just done vast and enormous reading on what those school districts have done. Honestly, we're getting to a point where we're going to try to find somebody that might be as high performing as we are as a group and what we're trying to do, but we were certainly looking for that and trying to learn. There are pockets. I want to make sure that's pointed out. We have districts around us that do pockets of expertise. There's people within those systems that are doing pretty amazing work when it comes to the science of reading and maybe working towards some kind of portion of graduate indicators that we can certainly learn from. I think our struggle is at the systems level work and trying to see it outside the pocket of excellence. So, great question. We have engaged and we will engage again, and I think it's just a matter of finding who's the who. And I think by opening our doors, we've provided that, we're looking for somebody to partner with to help us hone our work.
Yeah, I think that would be interesting to see where those folks are now in their journey, like Katie Novak, as you were saying, where are they now in their journey? What else do we have to learn from them? And are they willing to take a look at where we are now and give us some feedback?
Yeah.
Because I think you're at that pivotal juncture, right, where you're going to begin to make some big decisions about how you're going to move forward.
I won't speak, I think I'm speaking within we're not going to throw anything in here, but I think we have a 3, 6, 9, 12 month kind of view of where we're heading. I think we're feeling good about what the next year looks like as far as the learning needs and where the system has to move to. I do think, to your point, that year 2, 3, we're still building that. We know what that where our aspirational goal is, but we just continue to redefine it, and people are also a factor. right? You have to adjust, they're students, we all have to adjust in our learning and to find that next step. So we're really heavy in the professional learning aspect of our work.
And is that one of the reasons why you can join the professional learning and the curriculum teams now? Is that the work that's been started? I'm excited to be on that team, I have to let you know, so.
I also wanted to indicate, when we had Novak come in, we had them do an assessment, a system assessment for us. So we actually got feedback to show, like, here's areas of growth that you as a system need to work on. So that's been a lot of our planning as well, of like, okay, here's some goals, but here's some areas we really need to work on. And that's where we put a lot of our energies.
Thank you very much. I'd also love to see your 369-month plan for interesting, but thank you.
Yep.
Others? All right, well, thank you.
I just have a comment. That was a very nice presentation, and I think you guys did a really great job. And I just want to say thank you, because being on the curriculum committee with you guys last year, I believe you have given us a little bit of this insight at like the first, and I didn't really understand it, and then I traveled with you down this path the whole year and offered, my questions and advice. You were very gracious and always very helpful, and your passion and your hearts and how much you care is really appreciated, because you can see it, and it's hard to continuously always show up and be there. And so I just wanted to say thank you, because I really think that what you're doing is really good work, really great work. So thank you. And for the rest of the board members, the video about the dentist thing does really help. I did watch that. We went over that last year as we started to move through some of this stuff. And for the curriculum committee, we really, the people, we put in a lot of work trying to come up with the standards for how it shapes each, being able to set up the standards for how we're going to evaluate every student, and not just from every aspect, special needs all the way up. And it's I think it's great.
The whole, all children, right? So.
Yeah, the all really means all, and it's the teachers who show up, everybody who shows up. Thank you. Great job.
I can tell where your passion is, and I appreciate it, because we should be here for what's best for kids. Absolutely, that's what we've always been, in more sense, what's best for the kids and how do we get there. So I really appreciate this presentation. Thank you.
Julie?
Like my fellow board members, I would say thank you for all your work. Okay, let's try again. Thank you for all your hard work. You can see your passion in this. I would love to see that round wheel that has the portrait of what a graduate is in each of the buildings. I think that would be a really great piece to put in each of the buildings and really kind of remind everyone what we're focused on and how we're working towards that.
You might recall, the team put together an amazing video of the portrait of a graduate that was did on opening day, and I think it was sent home in the board update, and I will certainly send it out again. It was just wonderfully done, emphasizing that. To the point of putting it every place, the one thing I've learned, and I'm always cautious of, is it just has become unrecognizable, right? You put something there and no one looks at it anymore because it loses some special touch. I think sometimes that happens with vision statements. You print it out, everybody put it on your wall, and you don't that you've met the quota, right? But yes, we get to that point and because it means something. Because I think we never did that with our mission, right? Explore, empower, excel, but people know it, right? And now we're ready to put it up on the wall because it's a no-brainer because people are actually using the lingo. So similar to this, I'd like to make sure it's embedded in our professional learning and people can just know they know them, and then it's like, yeah, and now let's do it to push it further as a visual. So there's that fine balance. I love the idea, but I just want to let you know where that perspective sometimes comes from. People will say, oh, yeah, put it on the wall, I do it on my part, I'm done. No, you're not.
All right, thank you for your work. All group, well done. Oh, yes.
You're getting the chapter reading that our staff got. So yes, homework assignment. I will, yes, Warren, I will put some questions and some reflection questions 100 words, grammatically correct.
Compare and contrast?
And I'd like from you and, the MLA citations, please, just from one.
Dog ate my
That's Liz's excuse, not yours. Again, this is the reading that our staff looked at, our leaders have looked at, and went through to really start to understand this more, so it's very important that you take the opportunity as well. Thank you.
All right, so now we move to agenda item 6.01, a report from Dr. Douglas, the superintendent of schools.
Thank you, Mr. Conklin, members of the board. I'll do a couple things while I think they get a presentation ready real quick, just in redistricting updates and reculturing and so forth. But just so the board knows, we have gone through the process that we agreed with the transitioning of our staff into the business for the 25-26 school year. I'm happy to sort of present that we have completed that task with our instructional staff. 82% of the individuals received the very first request. And the only reason 5 individuals did not get their first request was because somebody that had the option to have their request chosen first already took theirs. So we had 2 people that went to their second request, 1 person that went to their third request, and 2 people that went to their fifth request. But everybody got the request in the order, and there was no issues, and we were able to do that in less than probably a blink of an eye from my colleagues that they delivered it to me, and we confirmed it with the HTA, and that tomorrow, as long as the HTA and the district agree, we are back to regular hiring practices for any openings or any vacancies that come up in the rest of this year or even into the next year, depending on individual choices. We will be starting to, in December, look at our support staff positions and starting to make those transitions. But along that line, our focus is turning to the parents, where we need to have the communication out to parents, and it's to every single parent in the district. A couple things, that every child will get this letter on what school is their home boundary, even if they are not having any shift. But we know 200 and something students, 268 students from Center Street. I think at this time about 46 students from either Gardner Road, Ridge Road, or Big Flats, depending on their movement, will also get the letter so that everybody has that information ahead of them. But it's also important to know that along with this shift, our education at the elementary is going to gain almost an additional hour of instruction for the students as part of our negotiated settlement contract, and also to meet the minimum requirements and go beyond what New York requires, as we were sometimes right at the bare minimum or possibly a little bit below, and we'd have to alternate our schedule to make sure that we met the requirements for aid. In this new schedule, we will not have that problem, except if we do not meet the 180-day requirement. So families should know that although starting times will be changing, the elementary K through 6 will be going to school almost an additional 50 minutes to an hour long each day. Except on half days, which are tomorrow. Sorry about that. So that's important to know. We also have our posting and vacancy for the Gardner Road principal position that's up and will expire tomorrow. And then we will be bringing all the transfers in the district for people at the December, just for an acknowledgement on the board record, as transfers are under the authority of the superintendent, but we want to make sure that there's a absolute specific record to that in the historical annals of the district. So that's that letter. And right now, I think our redistricting, I'm going to ask Mr. Kohler, who's been doing a lot of the culture work, to come forward and talk a little bit about that, and then I will wrap it up right at the end. And then I have more, of course, because if Tony's going to talk that long, I got to talk longer, right? Or we want to get out of here. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Douglas, and thank you, board, for a few more minutes to update you on the cultural side of the redistricting process. And so we started this goal back up, and this again was more on the staff. And when conversations first happened with our 4 pre-K4 principals last year. And this was kind of that time again where a lot of the process part of how this was all going to play out, the system side that's now underway in a lot of ways, we didn't know at that time. And that was the big stressor. When we said, let's control what we can control, and we got to always remember this is about our people first. You know, the human side of all these changes we're talking about. We said that regardless of how this process plays out and when those unknowns become known, we know that by the end, by September 2025, starting with our staff, we want all staff to feel welcome, valued, a sense of belonging, and part of a collaborative team, regardless of how these changes end up happening. And even as a cultural team, you know, in our last meeting we talked about, as this timeline continues to progress, we continue to feel, you know, a lot of emotion in just a lot of different ways. And for a while, it was our Center Street staff quite a bit, but it's picking up across the board as this timeline continues to progress, and some of those changes feel real. Whether it's thinking of our colleagues at Center Street, or knowing, you know, we're moving up to a different building temporarily for 1 year, or what's happening with leadership through this transition. Everybody's feeling it in some way, shape, or form. And so just that constant reminder to pause and say, that's okay. We've got each other's backs, we're going to get through this together. And really that's the purpose of this cultural team we've put together, is to continue to think through the human side of all of this work. You know, and so kind of going back then again, what's framed the work of this team. This was shared before, this isn't new for you, but I think it's important to just to connect back to. When principals led these conversations in our pre-K4 buildings last year in that March timeframe, we initially shared that goal and we asked our staff, what would be, if that's our goal by September 2025 for our staff, what would be the most impactful, intentional steps we could do between that point in time and leading up to September 2025 that would get us there? That would have everyone feeling that way when we land in September of 2025. And as we gathered feedback from buildings, the top 3 themes that came up most across, number 1 was from our staff, we want you building in unstructured times so we can connect just socially. And then when we came back and said, let's make sure we're on the same page with why, the 3 most common words staff said, that is about building relationships, it's about connections and a sense of community in our buildings. That is most important to us. The second most common theme that came up was the concept of rebranding of schools. You know, and when we came back and said why, what does that look like, what is that for? It's to unite us, it's to unify us. It's about a fresh start and it's about a new culture. You know, and a lot of conversation around that one of, for our students and staff and families who are going through a building that is closing, what we don't want that to feel like is that we are asking you to just simply go and assimilate into the other existing cultures in those other 3 buildings. There's too much special about Center Street and every single one of our buildings that can't just be lost because the building is closing. How do we bring that with us? How are we better coming out the other side when we maximize what's great about every one of our schools? And so it can't be about assimilation. That was a lot of that. You know, and then the third, there's the unstructured, but there is also, we're going to need time to really have that intentional team building and planning around the system items. I mean, some of us are learning new curriculum. We're forming new relationships with teams that we're going to work side by side with every day now. And planning to hit the ground ready in September with just our curriculum and our instruction. So those were the top 3. And knowing when this team came together, and when we got to this point, all of those conversations again had happened at the building level. And so again, in our reflections, it was that time to say, how do we now start to come across and have conversations across buildings and understand each other even more and start mapping out what this looks like. And at that time we said we can't put 200 or whatever the number is staff in the same room and think anything's going to happen in terms of how we action plan this now. So this concept of this redistricting cultural team came to be, and we're really trying to get a group that was cross-representative of each building and different roles to start to map out what this looks like. So we just draw your attention back to that and share some updates about where we've been and where we're headed. So starting again on that staff side, things that have happened to this point. When this team started, one of the first things came up, and that some of our colleagues on the team from Center Street shared, was the November part of this timeline that we're at right now. And knowing this process where we're going to have to decide and rank our placements and find out where we're going to be. That's heavy on our minds. They told us that loud and clear. And that team did a great job listening and being responsive to say, what can we do in those September and October months even to help you feel as prepared as possible to be informed to make good decisions there and try to set you up for success. So we shared a little bit about this, what Center Street staff we came up with. They'd be invited to visit other buildings just to walk through and get a feel for the culture of the building. Nothing too formal, but it was optional. If that would be helpful to you, and our principals were agreeable to that, They did a great job coordinating that, and we had some staff take advantage of that if that was helpful to them. The other action step that was recommended early in the year based on that November timeline was to send out 4 or 5 cultural questions to staff in those buildings that gave them a chance to share things along the lines of what's unique about your school, what are you proud of, what do kids most look forward to, how does staff connect, and gather that information. And I think Sam gave you a copy. She did a great job pulling that data together and creating what was called a snapshot of each school. That was shared, and we were able to just kind of get a quick feel for what staff feels stands out about their building. So benefit for staff in this process, and we're also going to have information on there. There's a lot compiled about the activities students look forward to most. So when we talk about the student aspect in a bit, that's information we can build from. So Center Street teachers, as Dr. Douglas referenced, those selections have been made in notifications. And then really as a next step, going back to those goals around how we're going to be intentional about building in that unstructured time to build relationships. Now their staff or teaching staff are finding out where they're going to be. And then also, where's the right timing for the structure? And so our team in the summer, when we had the full day together, plotted out, maybe that's the January, April-ish time frame, maybe it's a little later. So we know that's a priority. We're going to be coming back to the table soon to talk about really where are the ideal times to start to do things like, when do I maybe go to the grade level monthly meetings with my new grade level team? When might I go to get to experience a faculty meeting in my new school? And these are emotional topics, and we're going to need to take the temperature of our staff and do a lot of listening to make sure we do it right, because there's this balance we're trying to strike right now of we don't want to take away the current school year from anyone and all the celebratory events that exist in the current year, and be sensitive to that. But where is the right time to build in some of those opportunities? So we'll be revisiting that through the staff lens in our conversations coming up. And we are at that pivot point now to start honing in more on the student and family side of the school. So we'll continue to have an eye on taking care of our staff. But when we talked about, from a cultural standpoint, what is our goal really for our students and families, we defined it for staff. When we started that conversation, the team really had the realization that the words really change. But we want our students and our families also, wherever they land, to feel welcome, valued, a sense of belonging. And the only thing we tweaked was part of a collaborative team. He became part of a school community and a school family. Our schools use that term. So we feel if we can land in September 25, where all of our students and families are feeling those same things, we'll hit the mark on the cultural side for those groups as well. That's the lens we're taking to those conversations. And as far as where we've been and where we're headed on the student and family side, and Dr. Douglas hit on this one already, but just a lot of intention looking at now that the boundary lines have been determined and we're realizing where families are going to land, being very intentional in when we communicate, but also what that communication looks like and sounds like to send the right initial welcoming tone to our families and our students. So we were intentional in putting out just an update about that timeline in advance of parent-teacher conferences, just as another touch point for families, but also to kind of have that layer of clarification before families were going into parent-teacher conferences, just in case any of that was unclear in any way, or just a good touch point for families again. And we're talking through, again, in December, our families, all, as Dr. Douglas mentioned, they're all going to receive a placement letter for where they'll be. And again, the art of what that message sounds like, looks like, is being closely looked at to set the right tone for families. And then also pairing that with, we had conversation around, we know everyone's going to have their own reaction to this. For some, it may be hard. For some, it may not be as big of a shift, or those emotions will ebb and flow. And so tapping into the professionals on our staff, our school psychologists, our social workers, and using their expertise to say, what would you recommend in terms of support we can pair with that letter, so families have some resources on how do I explain what this transition means to my child in child-friendly terms? How do I access supports if they need them? And so those groups have helped to draft some communication that will be paired with that notification letter as a support for our families. So the communication piece has been the primary focus up front. But we will be starting to hone into what are the specific action steps that we will put in place for students and families in preparation for September 2025. We have some drilling down to do, but some initial talking points that we had when we shared what really needs to be on the radar, just for the board's awareness. We've called to attention what would orientation events look like through this transition? What does a moving up day look like for this? What do meet and greets look like for our families? How do we continue to, beyond this communication, proactively support the social and emotional well-being of our students and families throughout? And again, I would just stress again, the other thing those cultural snapshots did was give us a nice dipstick into the student events that staff feel are our kids most look forward to. So starting to look also at how are we going to maintain and strengthen and build upon the experiences we're going to be able to offer all kids across buildings when those transitions happen. So that's some of the work ahead. When we've had the initial conversations of even, is that a place to empower our PTOs? To be involved in some of those discussions too. So a little bit on the student and family side. And the last one that you saw that was the second theme was this concept of unifying our schools through rebranding. And getting away from the mindset of the our way, their way, into the new way that we've talked about. There we go. And this has been a recent focus of a couple of our meetings since September. We had the superintendent of Kinsdale Greenwood, Tom Crook. He came and met with us in September to describe the rebranding journey that Kinsdale Greenwood went through. Different situation in terms of changing their mascot for their full district and a different impetus for change, but a chance for us to learn from someone who's been through that type of process. And what were lessons learned, what worked well, what were mistakes that you do over, and what can we glean from that? And, so that was a great experience, and we appreciate him coming over. And then just starting to have the discussion of what might a process look like for us, for our situation. And what I'll say, I'm not going to stand up here and sugarcoat anything. These are hard conversations. Even while that's a top 3 theme, that doesn't imply that it's a unanimous idea across our staff or otherwise. So it's important to say that out loud. Even within our cultural team, we've had difficult conversations, a lot of emotions shared, and I think even perspectives ranging from, is this really necessary in that group, all the way to, let's get moving, it's time, and everything in between. How do we gather further feedback? But I think where we landed together was, it's so important that we have a clear and compelling why. Why is this a conversation that we're having? Why is it important for this transition point in our district right now? And going all the way back again full circle to that concept of, we're not asking our students and families, Center Street in particular, to go assimilate and become what the other schools currently are. We want to take the best of that and become better as a result moving forward. And I'd share a statement that one of our team members made toward the close of a recent conversation where we talked this through and had a lot of strong opinions. Said that, how we move forward, whatever this looks like, and rebranding, will send a message about all of those things. If we don't, it will also send a message. And I think that was a really powerful statement, but our team certainly left off at a point of, yes, we need the why, but a lot of conversation of when we say rebrand, how deep does that go? What are we exactly talking about? And getting to a point where we really define that and start to get some parameters of what are we really working with. So that was kind of our process. When we have our cultural team meetings, I come and share some of the recommendations and conversations with our executive team and wider administrative team. And that happened after that meeting. And I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Douglas to kind of talk next steps with some of those questions in mind.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Joe. And we've been going through this as methodically as we can. And it's most important that, we continue to unify our schools. We know it's also important to discuss this rebranding for the new cultures and the communities that will emerge from our 3 schools. But we have to remember, we're also trying to honor the rich history of our district, our schools, by identifying this new way forward. I think we can all say we deeply value the sense of pride that comes with being part of Raider Nation. I know that the transition may bring a range of emotions, but our school spirit is more than the school logo and mascot. However, it's important to understand that our school pride is really how we show support for each other, whether it's at the elementary, middle, intermediate, pre-K, high school, or throughout our region. And the relationships we have formed and will continue to build throughout this process. These relationships are the reasons why many families choose to raise their children here in Horseheads, and why so many choose at Horseheads to be actively engaged in all of our programs, whether they're sports, whether they're education, whether they're extracurricular, whether they're plays that are coming up. Please remember, we are still in the planning stages of this process, but we wanted to share some things. When we say rebranding, what does that mean? We've already heard, are you changing the name of the schools? No. It's Big Flats Elementary School. It's Gardner Road. It's not changing it to some new name. It's not changing Ridge Road to another name. It's about branding those schools' names and developing a new way so that they will keep their current names as intended. Only the board can change that. The process will start roughly in 25, 26, even though at first we said we'd start it this year. We had to contemplate that because the students and the parents aren't going to transition until after the end of the year. So rebranding, if we just go and rebrand now, we're not including them. This has to be a full process of the community to build it together. What does it mean? It means for those buildings, new logos or mascots, but they must still honor our history, our school legacy, and remember, it's part of the new culture, a new way. Doesn't mean we forget the past. It doesn't mean that we don't, think about what school is closing. But how do we develop that in line with sort of the name, image, and likeness of the Horsehead Central School District? Because no matter what, that is what all of our schools are. Greater blue, white, black, and gray are the school colors. They will still have to be used. And there'll be some uniquenesses, yes. Our primary colors are blue and white. Gray and black are tertiary colors and should be minimized, but still part of the four colors that we have used throughout the district and our rebranding as well. In addition, the district's already made a choice. Our image is of an image of a horse or some type of a horse family. We know that at the high school. How does that play into rebranding? But we're not trying to say what it has to be, but we need to make sure that anything that's developed is aligned with Raider Nation, Blue Raider, the Raider images. Student and parent feedback should be used to guide the final decision. No different than when we put a vote out. We don't have to wait till next May, but once it starts in September and the families start coming in, the PTOs, we can develop a unified process so all of them make their final selections at the set time so that we can move forward. Because you know what? Everybody loves swag, especially swag for the building or their area or the area of interest. So those are some of the processes that we've already heard to help to try to unify our schools both visually and culturally as we move forward. So hopefully that gives a little clarity as we go through this process. So that's our presentation on that and an update. And I want to thank everybody that's been going forward. We won't take questions yet, but we'll take questions at the end. You can take down the presentation. That will also, one thing has to be modified, that blue, white, black, and gray colors, just because that was missed. But we will put that up with board docs so that people can see that as well. So ladies and gentlemen, that's our discussion right now on the culture part. There's a couple other things. In this district, one of our cultures, and that's why I want to talk about it next, is we are known for Veterans Day. Our veterans are really important to us, and I spoke personally about it at Center Street because there's an unwritten thing that what's going to happen if Center Street's not here? Are we going to do this Veterans Day piece? I assured them we're just going to reformat it, and I'm going to work with Patty, I'm going to work with the other principals, and I'm probably going to work with the high school. Because Veterans Day is not just about elementary school either. It's about our entire school community and school family. And I think this is the time where we can take it to the next level. I'm sure Patty will help us, as well as every other administrator. And I know our veterans will support it, because they already told me this sounds like a great opportunity. Now, I know Mike Cogman will make it work no matter what, but he's going, oh God, what that parking, I can see it. But we will all make it so that Horseheads is proud, just like they showed on the TV. We are one of the few school districts across the state that really do this honor to this level. And we're going to make sure that as we transition, we still continue that in all of the schools. A couple other things. We just completed our winter sports process. They're in tryouts this week. I just wanted to update, as I told the board I would, for a couple times on apps. Apps went off without a hitch, but we did have a couple of hitches in the process from a form that was submitted that was less than accurate. I will tell you, we made the parent resubmit the form, or else we were going to let the child, unfortunately, not participate. And that's because it's the same issues we've had and we've talked about, that the information was less than accurate, either from the physician or from somebody embellishing some of the stuff on the form. We can't have that. This is safety. We ended up going through, and that parent was understanding, got it, everything, and everything went fine. So ours is not sort of to make it hard, but we have to make it accurate. I think we had students that went through both the primary care physician and students that went through our nurse practitioner. The parents chose to come, parents chose not to come. Some parents had questions about, well, why do we have to do these? Because New York State says we're ultimately responsible, not for our own doctor. I want to hand it to our nursing staff, Kristen as well, nurse practitioner, and Kelly oversees it, but it went off, this is the second time, relatively smoothly with no issues. I think all the kids are in the process of tryouts right now. And I think this, even though our numbers were low, I think this is the first time all the kids made it through the testing at this point. So, and that's been very positive for our students as they go through the end of this week. And I'll let the board know eventually how we made out. We do have an increase in numbers. The increase in numbers is especially being felt in wrestling. I talked to the AD, Jamie Harder. He has had conversations with the wrestling coach. The numbers at, I think the varsity is 51 to 54. It's about 1 to 17 because we have 3 paid coaches, but we do have volunteer coaches. And we have been, at least the AD informed me, that the real significant need is really in 2 weeks with modified wrestling, which right now is, I think, 35 or 37 kids, and only has 1 coach and no volunteer coach. So I'm telling the board, if we are going through this, and wrestling's a little unique because every kid basically participates. And these are all students that have come through our programs. And the reason why this program is growing, I can tell you, 4 straight years as sectional champions, dual champions, performance at the state level. We are a wrestling school. So if the board doesn't, I mean, we can talk about it later, but if the board doesn't have any concern, I will have to, for safety reasons as well, allow students to participate, make sure modified is at least adjusted. So that's one. Okay. Modified wrestling. That I would have to hire an additional coach. Yeah. Oh, sorry. It's this, you know, it's this thing. He's turned the heat on, I can tell you that. But that, we're right in front of the blower.
Just took care of it.
he has phone control back there. So I also want to commend, because it is athletic time, you know, and I'm hoping I don't miss anybody, but our girls soccer won the sectionals for the first time, and it was a tie with Vestal. And if people don't know, who is our rival in athletics right now? Everybody's going to say, oh, Aaron Cornell. It is Vestal, clear. Every game and every sectional championship, it seems, is coming down to us and Vestal. So don't buy green and gold, buy blue and white and show up. But the girls did that at Vestal, and then they went into a shootout, of which the shootout determined that Vestal won, I think, 3-2 the shootout. So we commend them because that was a big event for them. We had several kids in swimming. I think they're going either tomorrow night for state competition. We wish them well as our girls program. I think this is their 5th straight sectional year. I think they were undefeated again this year. Cross country, I think they just finished up, but we had a gentleman that qualified for state. And lo and behold, since 1998, the Horsehead Blue Raider football team has won a sectional championship. And tomorrow night, I will be traveling to Cicero, North Syracuse, to watch them take on Whitesboro. If by chance they are successful that night, the next game will be against a downstate rival, but in Vestal. Good part is we beat Vestal, and Vestal has to go all the way down to New York City to play their game because we get the extra team this year. And if they win and we win the next 2 weeks, we would play Vestal in the dome. Again, if that happens, there's a lot of ifs, so let's take it one game at a time and see where it goes. So we wish them all luck. But that is a good thing for the school, but the community and the just student population in general, because it does really change some of the discussions. I also want to congratulate our field band championship for 4th place this year. They've been steadily moving up, although we lost 25 seniors, so I'm hoping that they'll be able to get those students back with the new 8th graders coming in. So field band. I know the board saw the band reunion books. There also is a book at your table, which is their program for the day. That is yours. We want to thank our band staff at the high school. They took this on. It's sort of like this is the first time, but we sort of said no more than once every 5 years if they're going to do it at the 5-year anniversary, because it does take a lot of work out of them. They understand that. We also have, I think last night and tonight, if I'm not mistaken, were the tryouts for Into the Woods are what? Tuesday and Wednesday. I was talking to Darby. This is the hectic time for everybody and the kids. So they are getting ready to start their Green Room Players play, which is Into the Woods. I love this play. I think it's very different for the kids, but our kids are rising to the challenge and they're going to do that. I also want to just acknowledge what Mia already said. Our Knox Gala visit went off very well. We think our host families and as well as our guests had a great time. And Powder Puff football, I want to expand that, not just the juniors and seniors. It's a high school event. Get the freshmen and sophomores involved some way so that they can all have part of it. And it's a great thing. And the crowd was wonderful. A lot of people came out. And I know some people sometimes have concerns that the girls are playing football and the boys are becoming the cheer squads. I will tell you, people can have their opinions, but this is about students supporting one another. This year, the students, juniors and seniors, they came out, they didn't just try to support the kids, they tried to do their own routines and show just how hard it is, but they made up their own cheers for their own team, and it was a wonderful sight that they actually had people in the stands cheering along with them. And I want to commend everybody for growing that and also still making sure it's monitored and safe for our kids. So you're only in high school once, hopefully. I don't want to go back, but sometimes I do, just for these events. But I want to thank everybody for all their hard work. Last, I did want to bring to the board's attention, and I know I broke the board, we did have a parent make a request for a program over the winter time. And unfortunately, although the athletic department and I are supportive of this program, the time is not the ability to make something happen. But it is something that I talked about last year, budget didn't allow it. And it is in the area that we are an area that have certain needs. I don't know if every district can support a hockey team, but our region probably certainly could. I did talk to the individual and said, hey, I'm supportive. If this program can be exactly what they're saying it was, but the school couldn't verify totally to us this year with the cost that they have a sponsor next year, I do not have a problem in trying to support it. The problem this year was primarily is I can't support it for 1 or 2 students. I have to open it up to all students to have the opportunity. Whether they take it or not, that's up to them, similar to what we did with another program. And it's been very successful. So I did indicate to the parent that I would try to, I'd mention that, and that I'd also try to look at the budget, whether it's a regional hockey or whether we have these opportunities, and I would reach out to the superintendent from Windsor for a high school team for next year. Because if Windsor truly has this team, and Ithaca has this team, and the southern tier, say, the southern tier mammoths developed out of this area, one is you don't want kids driving that far, but if you can, that would be 3 hockey teams, and that if they have a 4th, the section would then be recognized in the state as an official hockey section. So that's some of the things I've asked Mr. Sachs if he can sort of just do some legwork and see what's going on out there, who we might have, and potential issues. But no commitment, but I just wanted the board to know what was going on. that we do want to recognize these kids and try to get them the path to be successful. So that concludes my report. I just want the board to know that during December, I'm going to be taking some time, but I will be around, either Tony or myself, but you can always get a hold of me and then we'll take care of it. So thank you all. That's my report.
Thank you, Dr. Douglas. So we move on to section 7, the finance items for action. There is no audit committee report to be given, so I need a motion on 7.03 through 7.15.
Second.
Curiosities, discussion, comments? Trina?
Okay, overall, when looking at the finance items for action, I do not see a claims audit report for the previous month. And I do not see a treasurer's report from the last 2 months. Our last updated treasurer's report was given to us in September for July and August. Can you explain to me why this is?
Timing of the meetings primarily. We talked about this at the last finance meeting, depending on how the calendar falls, and those involved in developing the reports and having the bank information and things like that. Sometimes the meetings happen too quick. So since they didn't go to the finance committee first, we hold them before they come to the board. So they will get caught up.
So next month we'll have like 3 treasurer's reports to look at.
Yes.
And then like 2 internal audits.
Yes, potentially.
Okay. And then on the budget transfer reports, the winter sports teams were included, or what winter sports teams were included in that purchase? And then I had the same question when it came to the fall, because it was moving, like it said equipment, but it said the reason was for sports teams. So I was just wondering which teams that included, if it was all of the sports teams or if it was just a few sports teams.
So yes, we hold the money in an equipment code and transfer it to the appropriate season sport or the uniforms that they purchase based on the replacement cycle set by the athletic department. Those were board approved in October, so I want to see if that information was on the budget transfer report for what sports and seasons were on there. They're probably on that form, but if not, well, give me a second, I can take a peek. So winter uniforms, for the report that went in October, varsity boys wrestling, varsity track and field, modified girls basketball. And then the other one was for fall, varsity girls soccer, varsity girls tennis, varsity boys soccer.
Okay, thank you very much. That was my question. And then, but we wouldn't necessarily see these purchases annually. This is part of a cycle, or is this like an annual purchase from the sports department?
There's annual uniform purchases, but the sports will vary by year.
I just remember when we like had the same kind of skirts for like multiple years. Is that how they still do it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep, and then they're kind of handed down through the various levels, down from varsity to JV, I think, down to modified. I think is how some of them work anyways. Yes, yes, but I think that they are repurposed. I guess I'll go with it.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Katie. Okay, and now moving to the budget status report. Okay, on page 4, for the 1981 BOCES administrative costs, last month the unencumbered balance was a little over $1 million, and this month that whole column was shifted over to the encumbrances, less than the expenditures. So I'm just curious why we moved the money from unencumbered to encumbered. As on page 4, it should just be like the second line down. Maybe like group 2 and then. The budget transfer, or the budget status report, the next one down.
So 7.06.
7.04. the revenue and expense report.
Thank you.
And it's on page 4.
So BOCES, in general, not specific to that one, so all of our BOCES services are budgeted for in various budget codes, so that would be the initial appropriation. Once the purchase order is opened, that's when they become encumbered. So the money was budgeted for, the PO's open, now you're seeing in that encumbered section, and then as we pay our monthly installments and encumbrance comes down, the expenditures will go up and they'll balance each other out.
Okay, so you had just portioned out that amount of money for the BOCES because you knew, and it just stays encumbered until you have the first purchase order.
Correct.
Thank
Well, it's
you.
encumbered and then liquidated as we pay.
Great, thank you. And then on page number 10, line 9712 for serial bonds, the bus purchases. This month we are now seeing that we are in the negative by almost $62,000. Can you please tell me why that is? And is this going to be money that we get from this? It's like, will the state come back and cover this later on with like aid, or is this going to be a deficit that we're going to see?
With the debt, it's manually encumbered because we don't pay it off of a purchase order. And so as of the date of this report, it was not manually liquidated. It's since been liquidated and it'll be zero the next time.
Okay, I was just a little concerned. And then, and then overall, the unencumbered balance has dropped from last month to this month's status report by just under 15 million. Is that something that we should be concerned about, or is that pretty typical?
Well, the bulk of that would be the BOCES.
Yep.
That's around 13, 14 million that's now encumbered that was unencumbered previously.
Okay. I think that was it. And then I wanted to ask a question about the AIA document, because I think that's under this category too. 7.13. On page 23, it outlines part 3, the execution of it, and I printed that off just for reference too. So the next few pages of that from page 23, it goes over the process in which we get updated, and it talks about a monthly update. So do we get those monthly updates? Will the board receive those for the project? If you go down, I believe it's on page 23 in the scanner. It starts part, I have it printed if you want to see it.
So this whole document is fairly standard form prepared by our legal counsel in conjunction with the contractors. As far as project updates, there's periodic job meetings that all the contractors are at with our construction manager, our architect, Mr. Coughlin. We have our facilities committee that meets monthly that gets updates on our projects. So as far as a board update, I'm not exactly sure what you would be looking for. I know Dr. Douglas and his superintendent's updates will give progress reports on how our construction is moving along. But I'm not sure what else you're...
I just wasn't sure because this section of this report was just pretty detailed in some of the things that they were talking about with what they're supposed to do on their end as far as making sure that we have the updates, like the paperwork that they give us. So I just was wondering, like, is the faculty committee, do they get like the emails from the AIA documents from the architects with those updates that they say they're going to give us in this contract? Does that make sense? Question-wise? You get that? Facility. Sorry, I didn't check.
All right.
Just, yeah.
So, that's a standard AI contract for anyone that we went out to the open bids. You were giving your update on the playgrounds and fire alarm systems between Garden Road, Grid Road. We came under budget on that. The process would be, next step would be the contract there, and We'll get the schedule of values that the construction manager will go through, and our architect will look at it, the payments that they'll receive going on. And then we do update on the amount of work they've done, which might be the equipment. And then they're reviewed by the architects, they're reviewed by the construction manager, reviewed by myself, and signed off for partial payments and breaks up the whole project. We do get them updates at that time, look at them, we review them at facilities when we're going through that. The facilities committee, we give an update each month, stay within budget, or under budget, never over budget, we never bought something over. So that AI contract breaks down the process a little bit. I don't have that document in front of me, but we give them the means and ways of not breaking down the project and review covered by all three of them, Oliver, myself. And then when I'm all done with it, and they go with that before we were kind of doing the breakdown. But what that is, what you think what you're asking is how we're going to get paid, when we're going to get paid, there'll be some form of progress of work that we're doing.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, it was up, they were, in it, it was talking about like, if they fall behind on their timeline schedule. Like, I was more worried about like a lot of that talks, they're talking about the execution where, how they're gonna make sure that they stay on task for like,
That's what we all do.
close out dates, yeah.
There's language in there, you know, to correct the measures, if one falls behind, if they're not doing that, there's notices to be, you know, we can take work over. Part of that is just showing that they have a time frame to meet involved in that, means, and that's a big portion. We do it, what we just did to turn over to Jim, that needed to be turned over in there, and they're falling behind. I think they're talking on their payments to be held, to work away. That's not, we're protecting ourselves.
Yeah. No, I was just curious about, you know, like how they facilitate making sure that they give us that. And then the last question on that AIA document that I had was under Exhibit B, if you go down a few more pages.
All right.
From that 23.
Your time's up, continue.
I mean, it's a date for the contract, so.
Your time's up.
I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have very few
As per
questions.
board policy.
The dates are just different.
All right, are there any other questions or comments? All right, so call the question.
I think I get 3 minutes if nobody else has questions still under that policy.
Okay.
Okay, so just on that AIA document, on Exhibit B, it said that the construction period was supposed to end for August 22nd, 2025. But then if you go up to page 3 for that initial date, it says September 22nd, 2025. So I wasn't sure which was correct. I have the Exhibit B here. Yeah, I'm talking about this form right here, like when you're looking at it, that says
What she's
8.
talking about is the construction line scale schedule, how it flexes by the
Yes.
date. And it's cut off at the end, which goes into September.
Yes, but it says for the ending, it said the closeout date was supposed to be by September 5th. And then I was noticing that on page 3, the closeout date for this document, it said September 22nd. So I just wasn't sure which would have been correct. Should we have stuck with August? Because the 8th kind of hard to read, so, because it's the
If I can help
22nd.
you, Katrina, that's a sample scale.
Okay, so
It
it's
will ebb
okay.
and flow, that's what they're trying to project. Like closeout can take months. I mean, it just depends. That's what they're trying to target.
They're trying to target
We
that.
try to target, it's like right now, we're doing something on the gym. They got it going out this far, and I told them it's going to here. And now they've got to adjust it and figure out how to get that workflow done. So that's what this is. It's just a visual map of what they expect the annual project to be, but it can move.
So we can hold them though.
Yeah,
Are we
it's
allowed
something
to?
that I get to hold them to.
So is the 22nd, we're holding them to the September 22nd date
Yeah.
and not the closeout date that they had in the exhibit.
Correct. I
Okay.
mean, but we can also, you have to understand, even though we hold them, we can also expand that, take more time, or we can shorten it up if we don't need as much time.
Okay.
So they just want to try to get it so that they're hitting milestones as best as possible. Like in this, if all of a sudden they said submittals and mobilization couldn't be done by that time that they go online, they have to tell us a rational reason. Say it's because their trucks were not able to come, say it was a Canadian company. They weren't able to get across the border. It's their issue. We could sit there and say we don't accept it. Or we could say, our lawyers might say you have to accept it because it's not within their control. But they have to try to meet the schedule.
Okay, and then just real quick, I'm going to read my last quick questions on the change order log. I was curious about the handrail because I didn't see a reason for it, like if it was a field condition or something, that little box was left blank. So I wanted
for big class?
So I wanted to know about the handrail. Yep, on the
Okay.
change order, it goes down in order. And then I wanted to just have a little explanation about the temporary kitchen as far as the electrical requirements. Why was that a field condition? And then why was it a field condition for the pads and the touch screens? And then can you tell me about the intercom system and why we are requesting that we have it? I know it's $5,000. I was just looking into the necessity of that. And those are my questions.
Let me help you with the railing. Turn right around. Turn right around. Look right behind you. See that wall right there? The one with the drywall on it? On both sides. In a gym, that was supposed to be an iron railing. Okay? I'm not accepting an iron railing because I don't think it's the safest option. So a field condition was, that's the way it was supposed to be built. We asked them to change it because we feel that that, with padding, will be much safer in this gym versus iron, like I had hitting it and so forth. So, yeah, well, we're required to do certain padding around the room, but we felt that was better. Now, one of the options was to build that 8 feet tall and straight over as a square, like a sort of floating wall. We felt this option is better because at least it minimizes the view. So as far as, I'm trying to think of the other one, that was kitchen. We have to have a kitchen, so field conditions. I will tell you, Mike, we did not want to put a kitchen in this gym.
So originally the plan was that we were gonna, when we went through the design process, we were gonna have, everyone was gonna be eating in this. Okay, and as the school year went on and working with Liz, or as construction went on and the cafe was running, we didn't know what it was gonna do to this floor. We changed it a little bit and decided that we had a classroom working with a principal that we could put a temporary kitchen. That room was supposed to be done, okay? And the electrical work all along was, we didn't know how much electrical we were going to be done. It was carried in contingency that you've heard, so we had money saved for that. It just needed to fall into a category. And I'm very happy we're not having cafeteria tables and everything in here when we were done. I think it was a smart move that we would have been refinishing the floor. So that was that. And your question on the intercom was, is we were going through that before we went through it. We added one to the middle school. We were done. Extra deliveries are able to pay without going through the office. So when we got further along, the food services were much happier, much easier to be able to not only just ring the doorbell, talk to someone before you allow them to get into the facility. So going forward, it'll be something that we added and something we learned as we went through the process.
But one of the things I'd like to add, just so that people know in the audience as well as here, everything that you talked about, we do go over at facilities with them. Sometimes the same questions come up, but everything is vetted, either owner requests and so forth. Like the intercom, we need to be able to communicate with the room that we put the kitchen in for safety reasons. So we have to do that. And these are all contingent expenses, so they're within the budget, but that's what the facility does monthly.
Yep, and then the only other question was about the touch screens, the wall pads, touch screens.
What building are we looking? Yes, that was the we ran into complications a little bit putting the pocket, this was a new space where the folding door was done. In multiple field conditions, we ran into it once we opened up the Gardner Road gym. And it was getting the touch screen to be able to work it. So eventually, these spaces in the elementaries, in redistricting, we had 2 gym classes going on with 2 different teachers. So what we felt in that need with that was for me to be able to get the controls on both sides. I do have, as we're going through and managing, feel like we do pretty good with that. During this construction, the district has me out there. I reported to Dr. Douglas and reported to facilities. These are things that going through that was the time.
Like, I will tell you tonight, Mike's already given me a problem. Okay, because, and this happened. But if you look up to the ceiling, you see nice cages around the light because you don't want basketball to hit them, right? That's for the stage. But look over here to my right at this basketball hoop and the cage that's right behind it. And the basketball hoop goes up if you're doing the thing, what happens to the light? So we're going to have to address that. And it's just a design flaw, but I obviously can't have that be the end.
Can they take over because it's their design?
All right, your 3 minutes are up, so.
I will answer if I can. I will answer. That is an argument and discussion that the district does have. Here's one of the things. At the end of every project, we will do a review, whether there are errors and omissions or a certain level. There's an industry standard. If they're not above it, they're fine. If they're above it, we have some say. I will tell you, there's some things where we have gone to either the architect or we've gone to the purveyor and the vendor who did it and forced them to deal with something. Sometimes they don't like it. That is our job that we try to do. And we try to do it within reason within the construction industry because we also want good people to come back. But we can't fault them when they follow drawings and designs that when you're doing something this big, they're really happy. But yeah, we do try to monitor that and adjust it.
Call the question? Oh, I'm sorry.
And if you want a sample, when you walk over here and go on the out, that's the type of metal that would have been there. When you see it, you'll say, oh no.
And there are pads going on that wall.
Yeah.
All right, call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? All right, I'd like to remind the board, before you leave tonight, since we passed 7.10, you have to sign the document for Terry, so do not go through that exit sign. Do not pass go without signing that document, please. I like you, Terry. All right, section 8, HR recommendations, 8.02. Can I have a motion, please? Curiosities, discussion, comments? Yes?
I would just like to say thank you to the retirees who have given their time of many years in our district. 4 of them actually were hired during my first stint on the school board. I can't be that old, but thank you to these 5 people who have given their time. But you will be missed, and we appreciate your service to Horseheads.
Call the question, all in favor?
I was just going to make an abstention. I'm going to abstain from L1.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention? I also would like to reiterate what Sue said. With the retirees, there's some very good friends of mine retiring, people I spent a lot of years in the trenches with, that I have a lot of respect for, and they will be sorely missed. And in addition, I'd like to welcome the one new person that we hired tonight also. All right, miscellaneous items for action, 9.02 to 9.05. Can I have a motion? Inquiries, discussion, comments? Sue?
I noticed on the proposed ACE public speaking course, has this been in the works for a while? Because I saw a 2023 date and a 2019 date.
Yeah, you'll see its implementation. It went through the committee, started this last year around this time on its journey.
Okay.
Right, and so it was not a fast, didn't need to be a fast mover because it's in the legislation timeline. And that was on me, to be quite honest with you, that it didn't get issued in October. And so it's just a month late. It'll make it into the course catalog though for the high school in a timely fashion, which is December.
Yeah, I'm like, is that? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Christine?
So I just want to say I'm really excited to see that course being added. I think the more life skill courses that we can have, and public speaking is so critical no matter what career path you go into. And I think our students don't get enough of that, especially in the digital age where everybody's behind screen and texting and emailing and stuff. So I'm really happy to see that course being added.
And just for clarity, we do already offer this course, just not at this level.
Right.
So it's great that we're offering, we're continue to endeavor to find additional higher level courses for our students that are not always their life skill ones.
Thank you.
Liz?
I need to abstain from 9.02.
When you were saying ready for the course catalog, like it's going in December, does that mean people can sign up for it for a spring course, or is it going to be offered like next fall?
Yeah, so they're going to offer every other year the regular public speaking and the ACE public speaking. I can't recall right now off the top of my head. It'll go in December's catalog, which allows rising seniors to select in their requests for next year which course they would like to take. And then I think Mrs. Earl, working with the counselors and the teacher of this class, can't recall if the ACE will run next year or if it's cycled to be the following year. But they're going to alternate ACE one year and then the public speaking, regular public speaking without the college the opposite year.
One of the things the district will also have to do with CCC certification.
Yes. So that might take a little bit of time.
So when you say year, do you mean like every
It's the
other
semester,
year or
yes.
half a year?
Yeah, so a lot of this is going to be based on student request, right? So student requests come in and decisions are made what courses to run for any given year. But we want to be conscious not to draw a population from one or the other. So I think the goal here is to offer a full 2 semesters, full academic year between each of these courses being offered. So it'll give the opportunities for students rising. Next year's sophomore class won't be ready to take it, but as juniors, if it's offered, they can. So it'll be alternating, so no matter what, a junior or senior hopefully will be able to sit in this class.
Because it'll be offered to juniors and
I believe so,
seniors.
and I'd have to check that to be sure if
I
it's in the
took
course.
public speaking here when I was a junior, and we did junior, senior.
It does have a prerequisite and open to students in grades 10, 11, 12.
Okay.
So yeah.
And so, okay, so you're going to do alternating both between it. Is there just one teacher who's able to teach this course? Is that the kind of problem?
Through an ACE course, yes. It's likely we'll start with one person being accredited and going through the rigmarole of meeting that standard, which it requires. The other one does not have to have all that. The non-ACE public speaking course can be offered by any member of our department.
Okay, and then how many credits do they get? Just a single credit, or will it be worth multiple credits when they go to it? Or is that still being worked
It'll be
out?
offered for us the same as a seat time is 1 credit for us, but for them up there, it depends on what university you go to is going to accept what it's worth, right?
Okay.
It varies. Some will give you the 3 credits and recognize it as that. Some university says that's nice, you met that requirement, now you don't have to take that course with us. They don't actually give you the credit for it, so it's all really university dependent. but potentially a student going into a SUNY system would travel with these 3 credits.
Okay, that's great, thank you.
Call the question, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Section 10 now, board policies, second reading. First of all, we'll go to Mr. Christmas for the policy committee report for November.
Thank you, President Conklin. The policy committee met on November 7th, and we had, I'm going to go in reverse order, the 2 policies on the agenda for second reading, policy 5680 and 5690. We didn't have any additional changes to those, so they're in front of the board tonight for approval. We had 2 first readings, policy 4741, and you'll see from a chronological review standpoint, we're starting the 6000s. We looked at 4741 because that had to be amended to adopt the additional graduation awards that the board approved last year. We approved them, but they had to be written into the policy. So those are the changes to 4741. And I did want to comment, policy 6000, you'll see changes reflected in that. And really it was 6000 is a aspirational, goal-oriented document, and the committee felt that this policy was far too detailed, and we have subsequent policies that get into more detail about the actual budget process. 6100, 6110, 6110R, 6112, 6120, etc. So those are the detailed specific action steps, and we tried to revert this fiscal management goals policy 6000 to kind of the basic aspirational goals that we inform all those subsequent specific operational policies. So that's the genesis of the edits that you see reflected in that document. And then lastly, we talked briefly in the good of the order about 9640.2 and then declined as a committee to recommend any changes to it.
Thank you. So for our second reading, we have 10.03 and 10.04. Can I have a motion, please? Inquiries, discussion, comments? Trina?
Okay, so for my preference, as far as the first reading goes for the fiscal management goals.
We're on second readings.
Oh, I'm sorry, sorry.
So you're just first reading?
Yeah, I'm just talking about first readings only.
All right, call the question. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? All right, now for discussion only for first reading, policy 11.01 and 11.02. Do I need a motion to discuss, or we can just open this for discussion? Okay. All right, so Katrina, I believe this is where you had a question?
Yeah, I did. So for me, my preference when I'm looking at this is I would keep the use best available techniques for budget development. I mean, I don't...
Okay, I don't mean to interrupt, but which policy are you referencing?
For the fiscal management goals, I apologize. 6,000. So that first bullet with the pink highlighted and that being crossed out, I would keep that. I like that. I like detail, and I do like the, for number 4, all receipts and expenditures shall be recorded fully into the proper names, or proper manner. I like that as well. And I get, that we like to change things to district stakeholders, but for me, I do like keeping the take into account the views of staff staff members and taxpayers in translating the educational needs and aspirations. I liked the way that it was originally written. So that's what I would like to say. That's my opinion. That's it.
Any others? All right, so now we go to section 12, and I do have a couple of comments. I had the privilege of being invited to a dinner with the sister cities, Nagagawa, sorry. And it was quite informative, some things I learned from the perspective of both a board member and as a former teacher in discussing with the representatives from our sister city. Here, we obviously know board service is voluntary, and where our sister city is, it's a job. You're paid. All right? I have a business card from one of the board members. All right? And I was talking about kind of my experience where I taught 35 years in the district, and they interrupted me and said, in the same school, in the same classroom? Well, not really in the same classroom, but the same subjects in the same school. And they said, oh no, 6 years and you moved where we come from. So I would have been moved around. So I know we've had a lot of discussion about culture and moving and things like that. For them, they just move after 6 years. Secondly, I said, so I taught and then retired and then I volunteered to come on the board. Is that a pathway that could happen where you come from? And they were like, no, if we want a teacher, we'll just pluck them out of the teaching ranks and put them on the board, and now he has a job on the school board. So I thought it was entirely different, obviously. And then lastly, since the school board is part of the government, they submit their budget to the mayor, and the mayor approves the budget.
I'm sorry, I love Kevin Adams, but no.
Well, I was just going to go there, because Kevin was sitting right next to me at this meeting, and his eyes lit up like saucers, and we just had a good laugh about that. So I very much am thankful to Hal and Shimon Canal who sponsored that, and were very kind enough to invite me to the dinner, and I appreciate it, so I just wanted to share the things that I learned. All right, so now we go to board member comments. Christine?
Okay, I have two things. First of all, this gym is amazing. So, you know, it was really cool walking into this school tonight, and I know I've seen it over the progression, but it's just absolutely amazing. And so I'm just so excited about all the upgrades that we've been having throughout the district. But my second thing is, I recently came across, so I'm involved with the Southern Tier Fund for Women, and they had, was part of a fundraiser that happened last week, and it's the FLX Gives 24-hour donation drive that's run by the Community Foundation. And in being a part of that, I kind of went out to their website. It was, you know, anybody in the community or anybody anywhere can donate to all these different not-for-profits that sign up for this FLX Gives. And I was looking at all the not-for-profits that were a part of it, and to my surprise, I came across booster clubs. So there was two from Elmira. I think it was the girls soccer and another one, I can't remember. And then it was the marching band from Hornet. And I'm like, wow, this is really cool, and it's a missed opportunity, nowhere in there was anything for Horseheads, and quite frankly, I had never even heard about this donation drive. And so I just kind of thought it would be really great, because I know many of our booster clubs are 501c3 organizations. So for us, and the cycle is you apply the beginning of August to be part of this fundraising drive, and then the drive happens the second week in November. So just want to kind of make a note, and I'll remind everybody come the summertime so we can get all of our 501c3s that are associated with the district to sign up for this, because it's a really great way to make money. And they bring in like $250,000 over 100 organizations. So it's a really neat way to bring in some extra funding for the district. So that's it.
Go.
Just a couple comments. Since you brought up the Balamachi, three of our children actually went to Japan back in the day, and back in the 90s, and they all loved that. And then one of our students who came over and stayed at our house, Yosho, he then came back in the summer and spent 6 weeks with us and drove across country. He sent us a note, said, "I'm coming back," and we're like, okay, well, we're driving across country with our 4 kids, and all Yosho kept saying was, America, big. But it's just a wonderful experience, and I'm glad to see that it still goes on. So that's a good thing. I also want to congratulate all the sectional champions. I actually went to the football game that night, even though it was very cold. I did go, and I was surprised I stayed the whole time. But I was excited for the team that they actually were able to win after so many years of not. They played 1998 when our kids were in school. And then the last thing I have is I have a concern with the 4 half-days in November. I would like to know how many students actually miss on these days, because I think it's a hardship on some of the elementary families for childcare and stuff when they're only in school for 2 hours, and then where they go. I know the latchkey programs don't operate, and so I think that's something maybe we should look at differently. I think back in my day, we had 1 full day and 1 half day. But that's just my thoughts. And never in my life have we had to go to school before Thanksgiving. Oh dear. Okay, thank you.
But if I can help, Sue, what happened is they did do 1 day and a half day, but ever since the state went to, you must have 180 days and so many hours, that 1 day counts against the district. So that by going half day, the day actually counts. It's just the way the state does it now. But that's one of the problems. And for this Thanksgiving Day, that's because it's 180 calendar day this year. If we didn't go, we wouldn't be able to meet it, and that means we don't get full aid. So unfortunately, tighter years get tighter. And I think it's going to get a little tighter just because the state says they may be putting in more holidays. And what we've asked just last week in our legislative sort of lobbying with the governor's office is that if you do that, and now we're adding an extra hour to our day, we'll finally have the hours, and we have the days, but if we fall short a day, but we have extra hours, why don't you pick, as long as you meet the minimum requirement? And they actually said they would look at that. That's what we're hoping, which would make it a little easier on that day count for the hours.
If we have a lot of students that miss on those half days, do we lose aid because they're not there? It doesn't matter.
The average daily attendance goes in, but you get credit for the full day.
Okay, okay.
They've changed that. That's the hard part. That's going to be our biggest thing with budget this year, is Albany's trying to mess with that calculation. And the announcement, I think, is coming out December 15th. What they're going to do, but I have been told, our governor is in a weaker position at this point because of the recent election, and that the Republicans, I mean, it's politics, the Republicans gained ground in the state, which means last year she proposed cutting education when you didn't need to. That if you try to propose changing the foundation and cutting education this year, and you're up for election next year, it might be problematic, and a lot of the lobbyists are saying there's going to be some changes coming. even the foundation aid formula was supposed to be redone. We're being told we're just going to make recommendations of how you could do it, not a new formula. So we just don't know. Yep.
Liz?
I have two important dates I want to share. The first one is December 12th. That will be the intermediate school has a drama club this season, and we have over 60 students participating. We're putting on Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. Had auditions yesterday and our first run through today. The kids did amazing. It'll be held in the intermediate school cafetorium at 7 p.m. Again, that is on December 12th. That's a free performance for the community. And then save the date. We will have the Harlem Wizards visiting us on January 22nd, hosted by the Gardner Road PTO. That will be held in the intermediate school, middle school gym. Tickets will go on sale December 4th. And keep an eye out, we will have some special guests. Some district past and present staff have agreed to join us. So stay tuned for more information for that. But again, that date is January 22nd is the game, and then the tickets go on sale on the 4th of December. And that's all done online. Tickets range anywhere from $40 for the VIP experience, I believe, then down to $15 for general seating.
Julie?
I also agree with everyone, this building is absolutely beautiful. It's the first time I've actually been in it in years, and it looks fantastic, so kudos to everyone for that. Congratulations to the football team, and best of luck to them as they travel, safe travels, and as they travel tomorrow to play. It'll be very exciting for the entire school and the program for them to continue on. And I think we have some girls at states for swimming this weekend, so I want to make sure that we recognize them and wish them luck. Also, as Dr. Douglas mentioned, I think there was a cross-country qualifier that did go to states in Cowell. I'm not sure how he finished, but I certainly want to recognize him for his accomplishments in getting there. That's quite an accomplishment. Want to thank the band for the band alumni group who put together the book that we got to look at, and also this really great, they sent us home with this really great kind of summary of everything. It really is impressive to look back at the history of that program, and that took some time to put together, so thank you to those who did that. Regarding the half days for November, Mr. Douglas, does the staff get early release the day before the holiday? The day before Thanksgiving. Are they
for
also,
Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
Well, officially, it is a full day for students and staff. We have done a half day for students. Staff could work the whole day. But seeing how we don't set precedent, I have tried to make sure everybody understands across the district, and we don't want to forget our people in the evening, our custodians and so forth, to come in and work that late shift. That we know this is an unusual event, that we are getting students out at their time and roughly staff out roughly about 30 minutes after that, as long as our buses are cleared. And then our offices are going to be closed and transitioned out by truck.
Fantastic. Is there, you had referenced that it was a state, it's because of state mandates, essentially, the hours that we have to be in school. I noticed that some other districts are not in school on that day. Are they taking, like, they go a day that we don't? I mean,
Sometimes their calendars offset us by a day or two.
okay.
Everybody has different contractual requirements, so we try to keep them very close. And for the most part, they are. Some are where we're taking the full 2 weeks at the holiday recess. Some are not. But it's hard to open a school for just 2 days a week. So it's a trade-off.
That's great. I just want to make sure the staff is able to take advantage of that day as well, so that's great.
We try to give goodwill, and I'm hoping that goodwill always comes back to our kids.
Excellent. My last thing is just a reminder, we talked about winter sports starting. Those athletic passes will need to be kind of promoted again. So if you did get one in the fall, make sure that you prepare and that you stop the athletic officer however they're available to purchase them going forward. Thank you.
Okay.
I just have some questions about the superintendent's report when you were talking about the redistricting a little bit, and you had said to wait and save the questions for later. So I had a question about the principal's position. You were saying the vacant position at Gardner Road. Would you prefer if I email these questions?
You can email them, but like the principal, everything there is by contract, so we should be able to start wrapping that up hopefully tomorrow afternoon.
Okay. And my main concern is this extra hour in the K through 6 grades. I feel like the school day is already long enough for kids. So is this something that the state is requiring? I'm wondering why we're doing this.
Well, first, it's a contractual requirement now, so there's no going back. Second of all, the board knew about this at the time we went through the negotiations. And most importantly, like you said, on the hours for the state, some of our elementaries, I'm very nearly not making, I'm figuring out a way to make 900 hours just in the regular 180-day year, because the district wants 900 hours at elementary, 990 at secondary. At the intermediate middle school, our intermediate middle school right now under the old schedules and even under the new are like 1,150 minutes, so they have more than enough time. Even the high school was under time until we brought back and made an official activity period study hall, because the activity period study halls under the state count, where if you're just roaming around and having a free time after lunch, that does not count. That would have been lost time. So the district had to go through this. I think when did we do this? About five years ago, the state put these requirements in specifically, and we're playing catch up on it. So now we don't have to play catch up anymore, because all of our schools will be roughly about 1,100 hours up to 1,150 hours across the elementary there. It's a requirement that we get 180 days, and because of that, we negotiated it at the knowledge of the board as well as at the knowledge of the unions, and that is part of their contractual requirements that they negotiated.
So like a kindergartner is going to go to school from 8 a.m. until what, 3 in the afternoon? It's going to be 8 to 3?
I can just say
What is
instead of a
that?
set time, say like right now, 8:15, say the elementary starts at 8:15, they go 6 hours. So 9:15, 10:15, 11, 12, 1, 2. Under this, they will go to about 3:15, 7 hours. That is the roughly average educational day for elementary across the state. We were under 5 they're about 6 hours, 45 minutes, 6 hours, 50. Our elementaries, I think, will be at 6 hours, 46 minutes, roughly. It's not quite enough. Preschool, the question was, will it affect preschool? Well, today's preschool comes in like 9 to like 2. Well, if we increase it, there is a little bit more time for preschool. We just have not looked at that time. But it won't be off much. I mean, we'll still stay within the balance of the day.
Okay, and then I'm just going to ask my questions, but you can email over the answers if you want to. The questions are, how many staff have been able to keep their same grade level in teaching? I was curious in that with the merging, if we're going to get that information.
Yeah, I will tell you, I do not have that information because they did it different levels, and their choice of what level they went to. 82% got what they wanted as their first choice. So it might be on the grade level, it might be a different one. I can't tell.
Okay, and then will the board get to see where the teachers were placed and who, if any, people were displaced from their positions or that might be displaced from positions in the other schools?
No one's been displaced from any position that we're aware of at this point. The board will see the transfers to the building and grade level at the next board meeting. Will be on there just for reference.
So we'll see the transfer report. Okay. And then, are we able to get a survey from all of the different staff members on, like, how, you know, how curious about the surveys to us sometimes about, like, the different dates? Like a general survey of how has this whole process been for you? How did you think it went? Like improvements, things you, like the way that we conduct our survey at the end of the year. Is there a way that we would get feedback from staff to see how they felt about how everything went? I'm wondering if that's something we could possibly do if we haven't done it, because I think it's important to get feedback.
Our cultural team can work at it, but they've been surveying the staff already. And that's why it is. I mean,
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like if it's possible, just come up with some general, just some overviews on how they felt overall. I think it's a good learning tool. And then I like that we're holding in place as far as the mascots go. I can tell you the Gardner Road Stars, they were drawn from my 6th grade teacher who I love dearly, Miss Keeler, Kathy Jacobus. And then when she was transferred, when Sing closed, she created the Golden Star drawing, and that was something, and I think that's just really special, because she was somebody who was really special to this district for a long time. And so I was just, you know, my thought was, you know, maybe blending mascots, but I like that you're waiting and going to include parents and people to be able to be a part of that conversation. I thought that was really great. And then, Warren, I'm glad you got to be a part and to take part in that Sister City exchange. That was something that I talked about last year that I did. It's such, I'm amazed that it's still going all these years. And the people, the small group of people that have worked so hard to keep it going, it is such an amazing experience. For any student, you literally can go over there for the cost of a plane ticket and you get to live with a family for a week and try to communicate, because you both can't speak each other's language, but you get to be infused in this culture and see how another, like it's the other side. It's such an amazing opportunity, and I just wish more people were aware of it to be able to do it and to be able to like have it apart. I know the students get to go to Ridge Road, but it's just such a great program, and I would really recommend it to anybody. It's a life-changing thing. Like all of my friends went to Europe, and I would
Thank
take
you
it.
for your time. Others? All right, just like to reiterate congratulations to all the fall sports teams and athletes. And I'd also like to say congratulations to Mr. Chavone and his colleagues and teacher staff that participated in putting on this variety show. It was a very entertaining evening. There's a lot of talented people in the high school that do some really amazing things in the arts. So if you ever have an opportunity, go to any of their performances. It's well worth the time. All right, with that said, motion to adjourn? No?
Did anybody else have anything?
That was the last one.
Okay. I just want to make a couple statements that I'm very proud of everybody, and I want to say thank you. Good, I thought it was done. I just wanted to talk to the board a little bit because I've had conversations since our last meeting to this meeting. I'm appreciative of everybody's general respect in going through the process tonight, and that's a sign of hopefully good things to come together. And with that respect, I've also been asked by individuals, how do we build, and I think today is a good day to build upon, that I would like to talk to the board that you need to still consider going into a retreat to work on the board dynamics. And I have talked with fellow board member Dan Christmas, and I've also made sure the officers were aware of it, that we do have a potential concept and plan, but is that I can't really go forward with it unless the board wishes to. But I know that the board, several members have said we need to deal with it. I don't necessarily have to deal with it here. We can go into recess for a brief minute just to find out, but I would have to try to select a date and a moderator because it cannot be me. And the board is trying to work on it, and I appreciate tonight. I mean, there were some olive branches there. We still have some work to go, I think, but that's a good direction. So I'm proposing we do some type of retreat in December for January and try to make sure that as we head into budget season, the board will have its opinion, but they will be in unison and lockstep trying to work for the best interest of the district. Mr. Christmas, do you have anything that you feel I missed or you make that?
No, I think you represented it well. I think, obviously, as a group, we want to try to be as respectful of each other, even though we have different opinions, but also work cohesively and display that. And I do think that, tonight was a good kind of step forward. I think it might be hard to agree on a specific date this evening. It'd probably be better to do a survey type, email survey like we do.
I got Terry.
But I think with a neutral individual that can help people express concerns that they have and help bridge any, gaps, that would be a productive experience if everybody wants to participate in it. I do think it's important that everyone participate as opposed to it being only a group. So, like you said, it's ultimately up to the board.
I thought we were at here. I'm sorry, go ahead.
As a new board member, I would suggest that we definitely do some type of retreat to work on building our dynamics to be a unified force, especially going into budget season. I think as we've all acknowledged, there have been some unprofessional moments from the board, and I think that we can only build on those and really build a bond to hear each other and respect each other going forward. So I would support a retreat.
I agree, and I think Julie makes a great point, particularly as we go into budget season, because that's always contentious times anyway, right? I think my biggest request is that if we need to have all 9 members, right? I don't think that we can be successful unless everybody's there and present without distractions. And I know in the past that's been hard to do, and the past couple of retreats that we've had, we have not had full participation. So that would be kind of, I think would be a showstopper for me if we didn't have everybody present.
True?
Did you say maybe December? No.
Maybe December, January.
Maybe January.
I understand time is short, and I need to make a vacation, but I'm trying to make the maximum amount of people.
I have a lot to get done in December for my daycare kids, so. I definitely think there should be a retreat, and I agree that everybody should be there.
Rena?
So from a scheduling standpoint, the date would have to be picked within the next probably week for January, because my book for January will end up being full before our next meeting. So it would have to be established. And ahead of time, otherwise I couldn't guarantee, I know last time there was an issue with the scheduling.
Tomorrow, I know Carrie's looking at me. She will have every date and time block in January done and out to you by the end of the day.
Yeah, I'm just saying, if we could take it before next week, that way.
Well, I'm hoping everybody, if we can get it out, it will be done by tomorrow night, so that we at least can work on it Monday and Tuesday with any calls that we need for adjustment.
And then the other thing too is I was never able to see the board retreat the last time. So I am still just looking to try to get those minutes at some point, or like the case to be able to review what was discussed at that one. So if I could get that at some point, that would be really helpful. And that's all I've got.
Erin?
Yes, I agree with the board retreat. It's actually something I've been wanting for the last year. An effective board retreat. I think we have to be really intentional about the goals that we set. And otherwise, it's going to be moot. So intentionality, goal setting, expectations, and then how are we moving forward? Otherwise, you know, I just want to see something effective come out of it. So yes, I'm in favor.
All right, so it seems like we have consensus, so we can expect to see the email at some point.
And-
Not tomorrow, Monday morning.
And it's gonna be tomorrow. And just so that you know, and if the board's okay, I'm using Dan as my colleague to help try to guide this and do some of the things that you said, Aaron. We will have some discussions with individuals on the board to try to get some of that and make sure once we have a date it's scheduled, and we will work from that point. Is everybody okay with that? Just thumbs up, let me know.
Motion to adjourn?
No, I was gonna just say, so if the email's coming tomorrow, I guess it's not gonna be a snow day? Dabbing the hopes and all us kids out there?
Can we adjourn? It's 8:36. It's early. I get to go to bed and wake up at 4.
Call question, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you everyone for coming out tonight. I know some people might be doing the snow dance tonight, but we want to wait till January, February. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy your Thanksgiving.